The Whispering Nile. In the lush banks of the Blue Nile, nestled among the date palms and acacia trees, lay the small fishing village of Al-Zubair. The village was known for its bountiful catches and skilled fishermen, but none were as renowned as Bashir ibn Hassan. Bashir was a proud man, confident in his abilities and dismissive of the old ways. The village elders often warned about the dangers of fishing during Laylat al-Badr, the night of the full moon. They spoke of the river spirits, the Afarit al-Nil, who would lure unsuspecting fishermen to their watery graves. But Bashir scoffed at these tales. Old wives' tales, he'd say, meant to scare children and fools. So when the full moon rose, casting its silver light upon the rippling waters of the Nile, Bashir took his felucca and set out alone. The night was still, the only sound the gentle lapping of water against his boat. Bashir cast his net, humming an old Sudanese fishing song. Then he heard it, a whisper, so faint he thought he had imagined it. Bashir, the whisper came again, clearer this time. It seemed to rise from the depths of the Nile itself. Bashir, come to us. The fishermen peered into the moonlit water. The whispers grew, multiplied, a chorus of ethereal voices promising untold riches beneath the waves. Bashir leaned closer, mesmerized by the shimmering surface. Suddenly, pale hands burst from the water, their grip ice-cold and impossibly strong. Bashir screamed as he was dragged overboard, thrashing against the phantom grasp. The villagers, hearing his cries, rushed to the shore, but it was too late. All they found was Bashir's empty felucca, gently rocking on the Nile surface. To this day, the fishermen of Al-Zubair refuse to cast their nets on the night of the full moon. They say that if you listen closely, you can hear Bashir's voice among the whispers, warning those who would ignore the wisdom of the elders. Beware the Afarit al-Nil. Beware the spirits of the Nile.
In Kadames, where narrow alleys weave a maze between mud houses, the wind whispers a tale of the ghoul. Not just any ghoul, but a shape-shifting genie taking the form of a captivating beauty. Her eyes are as black as the desert night, and her hair flows like a river of darkness. She appears to lost travelers in the night, offering them water and rest in her old, abandoned house. They enter, enchanted by her beauty, unaware they've fallen into her deadly trap. As soon as the door closes, her beauty turns to horror. Her face distorts, her teeth protrude like daggers, and she devours the flesh of her poor victims until only dry bones remain. Scattered in the corners of the abandoned house, it's said their screams echo on stormy nights, warning others of the deception. Some elders whisper she's the spirit of a woman betrayed by her lover in that house, who killed her and buried her beneath the earth. She became a ghoul, seeking revenge on any man who dares approach her cursed home.
The Jinni of the Khartoum Bridge. In the heart of Khartoum, where the blue and white Nile converge, stands an old colonial-era bridge, its metal frame weathered by time and the relentless Sudanese sun. Fatima, a brilliant young engineer fresh out of university, was assigned the daunting task of repairing this historic structure. As dusk fell on her first day, Fatima worked tirelessly, her determination matching the bridge's stubbornness. The city lights flickered to life, casting long shadows across the Nile's murky waters. It was then, in the gathering darkness, that she first noticed the figure. A tall, willowy shape paced the length of the bridge, its movements fluid like the river below. Fatima blinked, convinced it was a trick of the light. But as she looked again, the figure solidified, turning to face her with eyes that glowed like embers. "Who are you?" Fatima called out, her voice trembling despite her attempt at bravery. The figure glided closer, its form shimmering like heat haze. "I am the guardian of this bridge," it replied, its voice a whisper that seemed to come from the very metal beneath their feet. "A Jinni, bound here by the magic of those who built this crossing." Fatima's mind reeled. Jinn were stories told by grandmothers, not beings one met on a work site. Yet here it stood, as real as the bridge itself. Your task is great, young one, the Jinni continued. I can offer you knowledge beyond your years, skills to complete this work in mere days instead of months. Fatima's heart raced at the prospect. What's the catch? She asked, knowing such offers always came with a price in the old tales. The Jinni's eyes flared brighter. You must take my place. Become the new guardian, bound to the bridge for eternity. Fatima recoiled, shaking her head vehemently. Never, she declared, turning back to her work. But each night, as Fatima toiled under the stars, the Jinni returned. Its offers grew more tempting, painting visions of acclaim and achievement that made Fatima's resolve waver. And with each refusal, she noticed the bridge's condition worsening. Bolts loosening inexplicably, rust spreading faster than nature should allow. As the deadline loomed and the bridge groaned under its own weight, Fatima found herself torn between her ambition and her freedom. The Jinni's nightly visits became a test of will, a battle between ancient magic and modern determination. With time running out, Fatima faced a choice that would determine not only her future, but the fate of the bridge that had become as much a part of her as her own dreams.
Nubians of Jebel Barkal. In the northern reaches of Sudan, where the Nile bends and ancient kings once ruled, stands the sacred mountain of Jebel Barkal. For centuries, the Nubians whispered tales of its hidden chambers and the spirits that guarded them. Dr. Fatima, a renowned Sudanese archaeologist, arrived with her team to uncover the mountain's secrets. The local elders warned her of the mountain's power, speaking of the ancient Kushite warriors who swore an oath to protect the holy site even in death. Driven by academic ambition, Dr. Fatima dismissed their concerns as superstition. As the sun set, painting the sandstone cliffs in hues of gold and red, she ordered her team to break the seals of a hidden chamber. That night, as the team slept in their camp at the foot of the mountain, an unnatural wind arose. It whispered in the ancient Meroitic tongue, carrying with it the scent of myrrh and long-forgotten incense. The sand beneath their tents shifted, revealing glimpses of gilded armor and spear tips long buried. One by one, team members began to disappear in their place. The morning sun revealed shadowy silhouettes etched into the rocks, frozen in poses of terror. Dr. Fatima, realizing the gravity of her mistake, sought out the village elder. The old woman spoke of the guardians, warrior spirits bound by sacred oaths to Amun-Ra, sworn to protect the mountain's whole relics from those who would disturb them. As the wind grew stronger and the shadows longer, Dr. Fatima knew she had to make amends. With trembling hands, she gathered the sacred artifacts they had removed and made her way back to the chamber. There, in the fading light, she saw them. The spectral forms of Kushite warriors, their eyes gleaming with the fire of the afterlife. Dr. Fatima fell to her knees, offering the relics and begging forgiveness in the ancient Nubian tongue her grandmother had taught her. The spirits paused, listening. Then, as quickly as they had appeared, they vanished, taking the artifacts with them. The wind died down and the mountain fell silent. Dr. Fatima emerged from the chamber forever changed. She vowed to protect the mountain's secrets and to teach others to respect the ancient ways. From that day forward, locals say that sometimes on quiet nights, you can hear the distant clash of spectral spears. The guardians of Jebel Barkal, ever watchful, ever vigilant. The Curse of the 40 Days Road. A group of tourists decides to travel the historic 40 Days Road through the Sahara. Their guide, Omar, warns them not.
The Sand Wraith of Darfur. Folklore story. In the war-ravaged lands of Darfur, a chilling tale emerged from the depths of conflict and suffering. Whispers spread of a terrifying entity born from the anguish of countless victims, the Sand Wraith. This spirit of vengeance manifested as a swirling sandstorm with piercing red eyes, seeking out those who had committed atrocities against the innocent. Its very presence struck fear into the hearts of the guilty, for they knew judgment was at hand. One fateful night, a notorious warlord, his hands stained with the blood of many, journeyed across the unforgiving desert. As his caravan trudged through the shifting sands, an ominous stillness fell over the land. Without warning, a furious sandstorm materialized from thin air, engulfing the travelers in a maelstrom of howling winds and stinging grit. The warlord's men, cowering in fear, heard his blood-curdling screams pierce through the roaring tempest. When the storm subsided as suddenly as it had appeared, they frantically searched for their leader. But he had vanished without a trace, as if swallowed by the desert itself. All that remained were his weapons, twisted and melted beyond recognition, as though subjected to an otherworldly inferno. The sand around them bore no footprints, no sign of struggle, only an eerie, perfect smoothness. Since that night, tales of similar occurrences have spread throughout Darfur. Those known to have blood on their hands, from corrupt officials to brutal militia leaders, have disappeared during inexplicable localized sandstorms. Some say the sand wraith continues its relentless quest for justice, while others see it as a manifestation of guilt, haunting those who have inflicted suffering upon others. In a land torn apart by conflict, where justice often seems out of reach, the legend of the sand wraith serves as both a warning and a glimmer of hope. It reminds the people of Darfur that even in the darkest times, the scales of justice may yet be balanced, if not by the hands of men, then by the very elements of the earth itself. As the sands of time continue to shift, the sand wraith remains vigilant, a spectral guardian born from the collective pain of a people, ever ready to mete out its own brand of desert justice to those who dare to sow the seeds of violence and despair.